We're making a classic meatloaf today, and it's not dry or bland. Welcome to Help at Home, your resource for great recipes and easy learning. I'm Jim Hightower. Today we make a classic meatloaf, and I have a couple of extra tricks up my sleeve to help it stay moist and delicious. So grab your pen and paper, here come the ingredients. This recipe comes from the 1935 Better Homes and Gardens cookbook, so it truly is a classic meatloaf recipe. We'll start by preheating your oven to 350 degrees. You'll need 2 pounds of ground beef, that's hamburger meat, 2 cups of crushed cornflakes, 1 egg, 1 can tomato soup, 2 teaspoons salt, 1/4 teaspoon pepper, 1 cup boiling water, and 4 to 5 strips of bacon. That's 4 to 5, not 45. Now, this recipe was so, I hate to say bland, but it was so mild that I had to tweak it. So here come the Big Jim improvements. You'll need 1 clove crushed garlic, 1/4 cup chopped sauteed onions, and maybe even a shake of garlic salt, because that helps everything. Plus, we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire, which makes everything wonderful. Pretty much, I think, season this almost like you would make a hamburger. I mean, it is a large piece of meat. In all honesty, I upped the salt from 1.5 teaspoons to 2 because the 1.5 of the original recipe was just not enough. Now, first things first, let's talk about your crushed cornflakes. This recipe calls for 2 cups of crushed cornflakes. It doesn't call for just 2 cups of cornflakes. This is what 2 cups of cornflakes crushes down to, which is 1.5 cups. So you actually need 2 cups of cornflakes, which is more. So you just get you a nice little Ziploc bag, get your rolling pin that says you're in charge, and just kind of crush them. Then you just stay at it till you've got your 2 cups. Measurements are very important in cooking. Let's take our 2 pounds of meat. And by the way, how do you know when you have 2 pounds of meat? Or how do you know when you have any weight measurement when you're cooking? My wife bought this little kitchen scale, and at the time I thought she was silly. She wanted to measure out her portions, but it does pounds as well. And you just turn it on, and that's how I weighed out my 2 pounds of beef. It also has what's called a tare function. I hope that's how you say it, T-A-R-E. You turn it on, and you can set an empty bowl on it, and even though the bowl weighs something, once it's on there, you hit tare, and it goes back to 0, and then you can weigh. So that's kind of interesting. Moving on. 2 pounds ground beef, 2 cups crushed cornflakes. Here's my salt and pepper. Let's mix this up just a little bit. Kind of loosen up the meat. Whoop. Okay, Jim. Now, I got whang! But that won't happen again. Splatter shells are wonderful. I'm going to do my clove of garlic, and remember, you just give it a good whack. Okay, so part of that went, but it was a large clove, so I don't care. You can peel your skin off real easy after you've done that. I have my garlic press, and you just go squeeze, then take a knife. That's just goodness. Next thing I'm going to do is add in my chopped sauteed onions. I sauteed those and a couple of tablespoons of butter last night. Let them cool off, and I just put them in the refrigerator. See, you do little things like this ahead. And then this really is what Julia calls an assembly job. Alright. Put my egg in. Put on the plate. Rise up here. And I'm just going to let that mix a second. Now another thing that I changed up in this recipe is it called for 1 cup of tomato soup, not tomato sauce. But 1 cup is 8 ounces. A can is 10.75 here. And I just think that'll help add to your moistness. So I'm putting the whole can in. And then, like I said, 1 nice little shake of garlic salt to kind of supplement your garlic in there. Put it up here. I am going to use my splatter shield again. And let's let that have a good mix. That's it. This is what it looks like. And although it's somewhat firm, it is moist, and that's exactly what you want. Let's talk about your tips for moistness. This recipe, instead of cooking in a bread loaf pan, as many meatloaf recipes say, instructs you to cook it on a small roasting pan. I just have one size, so this is it. Now, I'm going to spray it with some olive oil so it doesn't stick. And you're thinking, why would a roasting pan keep it moist? Well, you'll find out in a minute. First things first, you do need a bread loaf pan. Put your meatloaf into the bread loaf pan. You're like, what? You just said, yes I did. Now, mash it down. And you can absolutely use your hands, but I'm trying to keep from having to wash them constantly. You might even try to push down on it a little bit to keep from having air pockets, because basically what you're doing with this bread loaf pan is you're making your shape. So now you have your roasting pan. You're going to pat this down, or rather, let's say tamp it down firmly. And it's one of those things you just have to let it fall out. And it will. See, only a couple of specks in there. If you feel like you have to reform it or do this or do that, you just go right to town. Now, I have some water in the oven that was boiling. Alright. So, you pour that over that. And that goes down into the bottom of the roasting pan. Now, see the heat of the ovens? Going to keep that boiling water steaming, which will help not only cook your meatloaf, but keep it moist. Then, your bacon, which has fat, is going to baste your meatloaf. Kind of an automatic baster. So depending on how big a meatloaf you make, see, I just needed 3. I can take this 4th one. I had one. Alright. You can just push that against your side there. See? Isn't that cool? And you're like, what? I never heard of that. I hadn't either. Although, like I said, Julia Child did it. Now, let's talk about this bacon. It will give your meatloaf a slight bacon taste, which is nice. However, if you don't want that, you can either get pieces of pork fat to lay across, or you can take the bacon, put it in a pan of simmering water. Not boiling, but just simmering. Really, you could get it to boil, turn it off, put your bacon in, let it sit for 10 minutes, then take it out and put it across. No bacon flavor. Alright, now that my hands are washed, I'm putting this in the oven. This recipe calls for 30 to 35 minutes, which is quite unique. Why is that unique? Well, I'll tell you. In case you've never cooked a meatloaf before, they tend to say something like cook an hour or an hour and a half at 350. Well, with this roasting, and it doesn't have all that fat sticking in there because it's dripping down, and this is basting it and it's getting heat from all around and even underneath with the steam, it cooks pretty fast. So we'll start with the 35 minutes. I won't even check it till 35 minutes. I know what you're thinking. You forgot to put in the Worcestershire sauce. No, I didn't. Remember that can of soup? It called for 1 cup of tomato soup, not tomato sauce. Well, I measured it out and put it in with the soup because liquid seasoning and the soup is liquid. Just like when we bake a cake and we put the vanilla or the almond flavoring in with the milk or the water. You just kind of do it like that. But I'm sorry I didn't show you. Here it is, just out of the oven. And 35 minutes was not enough, but 45 minutes. And it's over 160. There's 170, and that's even 172. You just want to make sure that your meat is cooked to an internal temperature of at least 160 degrees. Now, one of these digital meat thermometers really is a must, or a meat thermometer. Here's our bacon, and you can just peel it off. Looks like our side piece is kind of shriveled and fell. It doesn't matter. I added doing the sides. It's no big deal. Now what you want to do is let it sit for a good 15 minutes. Let it kind of firm up and recompose itself so it doesn't fall apart. And all the juices go back in. And you'll have a nice, tender meatloaf. Remember, there are about as many ways to make a meatloaf as there are people in this great world. This is just one way. Maybe you like yours hot and spicy or super mild, kind of like the sausage last week. Make it your own, and then write down how you do it, so you can replicate it every time, 100% successfully. If you like this recipe for classic meatloaf, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe and share with your friends who like to cook or just want to learn how. Drop me a line in the comments below about your experiences with this recipe and what else you'd like to see in the kitchen. Click the bell in the top right hand corner for notifications. I'm Jim Hightower, and remember, everyone needs help, even me. And don't forget, these are great, sliced up and made into sandwiches. My wife's favorite. We're making 2 cups of crushed, I don't like this. You'll need 2 pounds of beef, that's ground flopper. So, let's take our 2 pounds of meat. Why did I do that? And remember, this, if you like this recipe for, I'm a ding dong.